Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar. It is our fourth so far this year, and I am super excited to have my friend and a guest from SAP, Heidi Zhao here. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, John.
Yeah, today we're going to do something that's come up over a number of different sales cycles and discussions that Heidi and I have had with customers, and we've had at Bramasol with customers. We're calling it Demystifying FI-CA, F-I-C-A, contract accounting. But really, part of what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the decision criteria and some thoughts on what you ought to think about when you are doing, considering a order to cash project and are considering whether or not to use FI-CA or FIAR. Our introduction or our agenda. Hopefully everybody can hear me just okay. If you can't, let me know, but it looks like everybody can hear all right. So we're going to introduce, we did that. We're going to talk about some of the volume velocity things. We'll scale that, if you will, or frame that in the digital solutions economy. Heidi will give us kind of an overview and history of FI-CA and AR, and I think you'll learn some really interesting things about that. And then we're going to go into sort of a conversation about what are some of the key conversations or considerations, if you will, in implementing FI-CA and making a decision about that. And then we'll tie it together with my favorite, which is the big so what. Just a quick reminder, housekeeping, we are recording this session, so feel free to reference it later on. For those of you who are out there in the SAP sales world, certainly feel free to share this with your customers or any other contacts you might have. Feel free to send it out to anybody and everybody. You are all welcome to ask questions throughout the webinar. I will do my best to jump on those questions and answer those. And then, of course, we ask that you check out our other webinars. We've done some other great ones with Heidi as well as others on BRIM, FI-CA, RevRec, Digital Solutions Economy. So go check those out. You can contact us, as always, through bramasol.com, Facebook, LinkedIn. We do have a great YouTube channel out there for everybody to check out. We have a really great organized set of different playlists and areas that you can dive into and learn more about BRIM, RevRec, order to cash, leasing. A lot of different great subjects are available for you to check into. So with that, Heidi, maybe I'll ask you just to do a quick introduction of yourself. You're kind of the owner of the overall order to cash, quote to cash portfolio. What's your role here, and how long have you been doing this?
So I'm solution owner for this product, billing and revenue innovation management. Of course, there's also some kind of other products like entitlement management, subscription billing, cash app, etc. It's all within this portfolios we're talking about. I've been with SAP over 20 years, starting first as a consultant and working on BRIM when first BRIM got built in the practice. Nowadays, I've been as a solution owner for the last 5-6 years, probably, and working closely with the product team to collaborate to build the BRIM strategy and future roadmap. On the other end, I work with the customers to get the feedback and see the customer demands from the both end to connect the SAP ecosystems.
That's fantastic, and that's why we love talking with you, because you have both of those perspectives, not just the development side of things and what's going on, but of course the customer side. So let's take a moment to kind of frame this. Why are we doing this, and why are we focused in on these kinds of subjects? And talk a little bit about Bramasol. We introduced Heidi. We know who SAP is. Bramasol has been around for many years now, almost 30 years. Our founder or our owner is Hasso Plattner, one of the founders of SAP. And that gives us a lot of ability to do a lot of unique things with SAP as it focuses on this idea of the digital economy and helping customers implement subscription models. We have a deep passion for the quote to cash revenue recognition space. We've been doing it a long time. And so we're we spend a lot of time with folks like Heidi and also with some of these customers that you see here. What is the digital solutions economy? We brought that up, and I'll ask Heidi to comment on what she's seeing in the marketplace too. But why do we think this is important? Well, the digital economy or digital solutions economy is really that next evolution of what some people call the subscription economy, right? It's about all of these new business models, all of them including things like subscriptions, but anything as a service. As more companies move to either product as a service, software as a service, all of that is included in the thoughts around this digital economy and businesses using new outcome-based dynamic pricing or usage and consumption models. And we see this more and more with different kinds of customers. Typically, you'll of course expect to see them in companies like US Cellular, Warner Brothers, and others where that's a typical subscription environment. But we're seeing a lot of unique cases. Think of a car as a service where you pay a single fee like Porsche or Volvo, and you can get everything included in that. You have companies like NVIDIA, one of the world's leaders in the semiconductor and AI space, offering solutions to AI as a service. Heidi, you're seeing a lot more out there as well as you're involved with customers, right?
Absolutely. So before COVID, we still try to convince a certain customer to transfer to this business model because it's just convinced them from market perspective, from analysts, and this is the business model for the future. And after COVID, there's more we raise the bar. Everybody is looking into the subscription billing if they already offer it. Everybody is in this ecosystem, provide a subscription and usage-based business model. But then how are we going to improve the life of using it and improve the customer experience, improve the user experience? So we also further developed this functionality along with business AI, try to improve the process, improve the intelligence. And if you have thousands of subscriptions, the cases that you need to work on per day, what's your priority? What's the odd cases, not the daily, that's normal activities that you need to pay attention to. All those things we can discuss in the further, but this is definitely the direction that SAP is looking into, and definitely is the market demands.
That's a great point. And you know what I love about these webinars is I always think of something. We come up with things that I didn't think of before, and I think you hinted at it. What we're seeing is a change from a push where we went to customers and said, "Oh, you need BRIM. Everybody's doing this subscription," to a pull. More and more, we're seeing customers coming to us saying, "We're implementing these. We're doing these new models. You know, Bramasol and SAP, can you help us really figure out what's the best way to go to market?" One of the frameworks that we're using for that is this idea of volume, velocity, density, and complexity. What do we mean by that, right? And you and I run into that a lot, right, Heidi?
Absolutely. I mean, the volume, the velocity, as you identified very well, right? People just think about, oh, I only have 1,000 customers, I'm not there yet. But think about the details in the, like you said, velocity, like complexity of density, other scenarios, not just that number of customers. It's all everything, the code to cash, entire process behind it, and the every activity, every uniqueness of your business process that you need to consider.
Yeah, spot on. And I know when we think about this, it's the same thing from both a quote to cash to rev rec and leasing. It's volume. How many are there? Are you talking, as you said, thousands? But how many of those thousands happen how quickly? Or is it tens of millions? And there's a difference between processing 10 million transactions in a quarter versus having to process 10 million transactions on a weekly basis. So that volume and velocity go together, and that's why a tool like FI-CA is so important to consider. Also, you want to consider things like density and complexity. How dense, what do we mean by that? Well, we have customers who may only have 5,000 customers, but they have thousands and thousands of line items on the individual invoices that are being brought together from multiple sources. And tools like SAP convergent invoicing or convergent charging are great ways to bring that all into one place and do ratings and stuff like that. And of course, the interrelatedness of all of those, the if then else's, are important. But what we're here to talk about today really is FI-CA, and that's FI-CA. So maybe Heidi, you can tell us a little bit about FI-CA itself. What is it? What makes it different from FI-AR that we're more traditionally familiar with? And take us on a little bit of a journey of what is it and where did it come from and why are we here?
Thanks, John. This is kind of interesting story I told many times, right? Because everybody know FI-AR. FI-AR probably exists since SAP exists in the 70s, right? So starting from the initial SAP to R2, R3, and etc. But what is RMCA? It stands for Revenue Management Contract Accounting, and the name is kind of really confusing. But for me, you can just think about this as a sterilized FI-AR. And it's built in the 90s. People think BRIM is new, but FI-CA is not new. It's built in the 90s. And it's for those traditional subscription business model. Back then, telco, utility, public sector, media, you can think of. And the name was created, if you see RMCA, I know Microsoft and Apple still use that old name because that's when they first implemented called Revenue Management Contract Accounting. That's the FI-CA version for telco, and later on we have a PSCD, FSCD, MCA, and the variety of the name for different industries. In 2003, we created the convergent invoicing, and it's still integrated. The first integration was RMCA. If anybody know convergent invoicing, the database is shared with the FI-CA. So it's activated on the same workbench. It's easy to add on and build the integration to other modules. And you're talking about the milestone, right? The 2010 probably is really the milestone that 2009 we have acquisition of Ideal. We build a new the community, BRIM community 2010, and that's the first integration of CC, CI, and CFM. CFM is Customer Financial Management. It's another name for FI-CA. I don't want to go through all this kind of list of milestones. The other milestone is 2015, we built the FI-CAC, the public cloud version, and keep going on. And until nowadays, right? So people think this has already become old, but we will not stop. As I mentioned earlier, now the trend is build business AI along with the whole process. And the roadmap will be shared for the during the Sapphire. We definitely will continue this journey for the market demands.
Right, and you guys are thinking constantly. I know we talked with some of your colleagues from the development team earlier this week, and one of the things that impresses me is how much SAP is investing in continuing to roll out and support new business models, but also AI, whether it's Joule or some of the AI areas, right?
Yeah, exactly, John. As I said earlier, that we push the customer to go this direction. Now the customer come back to us, how you improve our day-to-day life, how we improve the customer satisfaction, right? The SAP has become an AI business model, especially for BRIM, right? Because
yeah.
We only have over 1,000 customers. It's not, you think about not that much, but when you look at the customers, are all like giant customers that have high demand, high complexity, and require really some kind of business AI to ease their day-to-day life, to automate certain things, to tell them this is a priority, and this data look abnormal that you need to pay attention to. This could be wrong. This could cause delay of collection, all those kind of things.
Yep.
And we can definitely do a lot for the customers nowadays.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that at SAP Insider, right? Some of the AI implications in this space. So, yeah, absolutely. So Heidi, that's kind of the history. And what impressed me when we talked about this is, I think there's an impression out there that SAP is new to this space. Particularly FI-CA has been around a long time, but SAP's been in this space a long time, and it's a pretty stable product. It's evolving, but it's a very stable product that people can count on, right?
Absolutely, we just improve it. So as our experience started in 90s. So if you talk about who has the most subscription and usage-based ERP experience, I can't think of any other company can compete with us.
No, I agree, and absolutely. So let's talk a little bit, and maybe you can help us understand. So, as you and I spoke, FI-CA is really it's a receivable, it's a sub-ledger. Maybe you can highlight, and we can talk about, first off, why do they want to consider, when you think of this, why do they want to consider volume? And we can go through and talk about a few of these items.
Absolutely. So the contract account is designed mainly for the high volume to start with, right? So, and the volume we're talking about, not only the number of customers, as you mentioned earlier about transaction, about the bill items, about payments, and all those it need to be considered. In the past, in the FIAR, when I was FIAR consultant, I know there's certain data wrong or certain customer call in. You're able to manually go in the system to make corrections, to make update, give a credit memo, to do things pretty easily. I'll write off certain things, dispute certain items. But everything time 10,000, 20,000, you kind of from human errors is almost impossible. So from functional, FI-CA is built more like master data, payment processing, all those functionalities. They build majority of the capability is different. You have a mass update, you have certain tolerance, you have certain events built in. From technically, the performance, you have one notch up, you build a batch processing, and you have more automation process to scalable, right? And then the background jobs, the events, all those things. And you think about the traceability, even just an invoice you send to a B2B customer, just $1 million, behind the scene could be 10,000, 20,000 individual line item. And if you go through dispute, go through collections, and that pain, if you just using the traditional FIAR, it just have accounting value in it without the transactional, without the billable item, what's behind the scene, is make the accountant's life really miserable to trace back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you and I had you talked about at one point, customers, maybe the error rate is only 0.01%. But 0.01% of a $10 million number is still a really big number to manage, tens of thousands on a monthly basis for traceability. And the beauty, of course, is your ability to do that and create granular, if you will, invoices and settlements, so that you can really understand, not just what you are collecting, but what you should be collecting and how that relates to what you see from your banks. So I think that other piece that you talked about of that integration is important too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of our advantage, right? So there's one side, the difference between FI-CA and FIAR. FIAR can only be implemented with SAP FI-CO together, right? Because their general ledger is highly integrated, real-time integrated. FI-CA is as a separate model and could be, it is highly integrated, but could be installed, implemented separately. So I have seen customer implement FI-CA with Oracle Finance. Yeah. Not the cases I want to, but they just show how flexible the integration of FI-CA. And nowadays, especially with further development, we integrate the upfront commerce, the CBQ, on the back end, collection, treasury, cash, GRC, RAR, those kind of functionality. So if you want to leverage the full end-to-end solutions, that's definitely an advantage for FI-CA as well.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, and we'll touch towards the end here on the master data because that's important, but also you talk about both payment flexibility, but also the ability to do, it's got a full collections, dunning, traceability function in there, and it allows for you to have some flexibility on payment options, and that's what I love about it because it's got so much. It's not just at the group level or the aggregate level. This is you have this granularity and all of this rich functionality, right?
Yeah, so to be more visual, right? A year ago, I interviewed the Disney Plus, right? They said they are using FI-CA. They have 200 million subscribers, and the payment flood in from different channels. You think about different payment methods. Their clearing rate is over 99%. There's a prepaid, there's a postpaid, and there's a partial payment, and there is a revenue share business model. There's intercompany postings, and there's the revenue recognition with a different time frame because timely, on demand, those certain kind of things, right? We talk about 200 million subscribers, over 99% cash clearing rate, but that's still not exactly what they wanted, right? Further, you can also improve that to less than 1% with Cash App, with business AI, all the capabilities that you can make customer life, as I earlier said, to improve their day-to-day efficiency, also increase the customer satisfactions, and the flexibility of managing all the balance is definitely another level compared to FI-AR.
Absolutely, absolutely. And critical to all of that, of course, is, you talked about the integration capabilities, but also critical to that is the idea of the master data integration. And you talk about this idea of 1 to N and a tiered relationship. Maybe you can help the audience understand that a little better.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, right? When I first learning FI-CA, and I said, what is a business partner? Actually, just another view of customer master data. However, contract accounts I consider is a finance view of these customers. And in the past, when we do the FI-AR, you have a customer and customer at the company code level. It's similar to that, but it's more of it. You can managing one customer with different sub-balance. You can net them together. You can separate them. You can build different billing cycle, different payment term and dunning term for the same customer, but maybe different subdivision of family of different children. Or, for example, if I'm a Disney customer, then right now I'm only Disney Plus customer, but think about future Disney cruise, Disney theme park, and Disney merchants, restaurants, all those things. And like Disney said, we chose BRIM is not just for Disney Plus, not for right now. We don't know what future is coming. We want to predict what we want to be sustainable. And BRIM, especially FI-CA, is the solution we can think about. We can put all the customer portfolio, different financial balance in a holistic view and in one system. So that's a
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't mean that you don't still, it's a sub ledger, so that means that it is then posting to the bigger FI-AR. So you're not giving away or giving up AR, you're just enhancing it really with this solution, right?
Yeah, enhancing in the high volume, in the flexibility, and it's focused on the complexity way, so to do it. And I'm not saying FI-AR is not good. FI-AR also future developed with AI, future developed with all integration surrounding sounds. It just focus on different target group, and it depends on your business scenarios. And I would say if you only have like automotive, you only have 5 customers, and you only have a billing cycle, 1 billing cycle or 5 billing cycles, and the complexity is in the logistics, in the manufacturers, and then FI-CA is overkill for you, right? So, but for the other cases, like I mentioned, as you mentioned also from those logo, Warner Brothers and Disney and Coca-Cola, those are definitely use case for them.
Yeah, Coca-Cola is an amazing one that I really love because nobody thinks of Now, what do you mean a Coca-Cola as a service? But, as we all go out to different cafeterias, the SAP cafeteria, I think was one of the early ones that I saw, where you can walk up to a machine and choose 15 different sodas that I want. I can mix and match them, but all of that is, all of the billing for all of that takes place at a very unique level, because you're billing for different syrups, you're billing different locations. You might have a master agreement where there's a master customer, but there's individual relationships underneath that, and you need to be able to trace and track all of those. And I think FI-CA is a great way of doing that, right?
Yeah, perfect use case, John, spot on. And I love this use case, because I live in Atlanta, and we have a Coke machine definitely in our office, as you mentioned. The partner revenue share, also the rebate, is also a big win for us, and netting from the AP and AR to prevent revenue leakage is also another good scenario for FI-CA, right? Because FI-AR is only for customer payment, incoming payment, but FI-CA is actually account receivable and payable. One side, this restaurant, you send bill for their consumptions, their usage of beverage. The other side, you also send rebate to the customer, calculated by the volume, by the tier pricing, by the their hierarchy organization. And that could cause a problem, because in traditional FI-AR and FI-AP, that's totally two different channels. They don't link to each other, but we net them together. So it's not like this restaurant already go bankrupt and have a delinquished invoice. In the other side, you still send the payment for rebate. But this way you can netting it and make sure you're managing all the cash, you're managing customer status well.
Absolutely. And restaurants, we think of them more traditionally, but you think of franchise organizations as well, where that kind of billing is so important. A Starbucks might be another example of one where, all of these different stores and all of the different collections with cards and all kinds of activity. Think of the volumes and volumes of activity with promotions and, rewards and all of that. How do you trace that? And FI-CA is really designed to help you do that.
Yeah, it's really, that's another good point, right? You're managing the prepayment, you're managing the point systems, you're managing the gift card. All those things can be in the FI-CA, along with also CC allowance, those kind of integrated. You can managing all those kind of balance that with traditional FAR will be difficult to track in B2C scenario, and all those promotions that you created in the systems. But with FI-CA, these traceabilities and those details, and you can managing monetary and non-monetary payment balance very well here.
Yep, absolutely. So, I think customers can see, and the folks on here can see, a lot of different use cases, some opportunities there out there. But as you're thinking of FI-CA and what you want to do, let's talk about some of the key considerations. We'll start, just start on the left and kind of walk through some of these, right? Because I think they're important to spend a little time talking about. And certainly, folks, if you have any questions as we go through, don't hesitate to reach out. What do we mean when we say, think of FI-CA simplifying transaction management at scale? What do we mean by that? And what more importantly, what should a customer be thinking of as we talk with them, and what are the questions they should ask around that?
So all these 6 bullets, of course, all the complexities they have, and then also think about their existing landscape, right? Because most customers we spoke already, SAP customers already utilize FI-AR, and what we do, how do we start from there, right? Typically, based on scenario, there's also typically three kind of scenarios we think if we can enter their current existing landscape. First, you replace FI-AR with current FI-CA, right? Based on your business use case, like Microsoft, they're tremendous moving to B2C, moving to online. right? However, you can integrate FI-CA with CI, and there's also option if they currently have SD billing, they also have logistic. Also
Right.
can integrate it with converting invoicing and posting their account receivable through FI-CA. And there's, of course, industry flavors that you can integrate it into different billing channel, integrated into FI-CA. And there's another option saying like, oh, I don't have that volume to start with, right? Like Lexmark, we purely B2B, but we still want to leverage CI. Then we don't go with FI-CA, we can still keep your existing FI-AR, keep your existing banking integration, all the interfaces and your credits and collection system with FI-AR. However, you integrated FI-AR with a CI. So you have also detailed transactions, you maintain all the transaction level in the CI, then you aggregating, posting to FI-AR. The disadvantage, you don't see the details in FI-AR, but if you hop the models, hop into CI, you can still see the transactional details there. And of course, there's also hybrid options, right? Like there's customer using FI-CA and FI-AR, right? That's a little bit confusing. I think that's something we can probably have all different use cases. That's really was lots of detailed question, why and how and what.
Right. Yeah, and hybrids can exist in different ways. You can have them in the same unit, but all, you know, there you can also look at it from a subsidiary. You certainly could have a subsidiary that runs FI-CA but feeds a more global general ledger, because some of the parts of the business don't really need that, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So there's a greenfield implementation, there's brownfield implementation. There's also depends on different LOB, as you mentioned, right? You could have the existing system still running on FI-AR like Disney, but the new business model run on FI-CA. Or you can be like Coca-Cola saying like, oh, our big logistic manufacturing systems, we're still running, corporate still running FI-AR. However, the B2C, all the other scenario channels, so we're using FI-CA. And then to your point, could be implement the same different infrastructure, like one on one box, S4 box, the other still on the ECC, could be both on S4 separate instance. And also, as you mentioned, could be coexisting the same instance, same box. That's actually possible. People don't think that's possible. FI-CA and FI-AR existing on the same box. And of course, there's a precondition, like we need to have separate bank account, have separate group of customers. But there are customers to cost saving. They could have FI-CA, FI-AR co-located on the same instance.
Right, and the flexibility of S/4HANA to be able to offer the business partner and create them in different relationships can also power that as well, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So because business partner is a role based, for business partner, you can assign role as contract count. You can also assign role as customer and vendor. If you have, as I said, your existing logistic infrastructure, your logistic business process, you utilize also traditional customer master data, vendor customer master data, but all can be rolled up to one business partner. So you have a holistic view of this entire business partner from a vendor perspective, from customer perspective, from credit perspective, from collection perspective, and also the B2C, the contract counts and and one-to-one relationship perspective.
Yeah, you make a great point. One of the considerations we look at, you know, when we talk to customers, and I know you do too, is that whole idea of accounts receivable and payment processing and credit management, and how you do that at the line, whether it's at the line item level, and the level of that is absolutely one of the things that customers and we should consider when thinking about that, right?
Yeah, credit management is a big thing, right? As you mentioned, credit management is based on the business partner. It's not based on contract counts. So actually, you can roll up the FI-AR, FI-CA to same business partners. You have holistic view of this customer credit exposure and credit balance there. So to better utilize their credit score, to better assess this customer from a holistic view from different LOBs and the consumptions of this customers.
What's, as I think about this, what's something that customers ought to think about in the bank side of this? And I know we're not asking, it's a little stretch on this question, so I'm going to stretch you a little bit, but as I think about what you said, creating two different bank accounts, if you will, or bank relationships there, that detail of banking information, if you're doing FI-CA, what should a customer think about in that respect?
There's a little bit shortcoming there, right? When you're talking about the banking side, right? Because it is a two interface, two integration, two set of balance you need to think about to load from banking account statement or incoming payment balance sheet to load in the FI-CA versus FI-AR if you do have FI-CA and FI-AR coexisting, right? And that's another thing I would prefer the people saying you choose one or the other and possibly to have a true coexisting, because that add complexity. You have a two sets of interface to the banking, and the way how it processing is also slightly different from FI-AR payment program versus FI-CA payment program. FI-CA is totally different because there's an event built in to like early stage of machine learning based on different usage of different industries. You building different logic there. And based on that, you can automate it processing to increase the cash clearing rate. FI-AR is build different payment processing, different program based on the countries, based on specific payment method. So it's the way that they trade payment different. So almost need two sets of people cross-training each other to learn one or the other. And when I first started FI-AR, I said, it's all bank payment. What's it different? I know FI-AR, how can I not know FI-CA? But I realized I need to relearn everything because, as I said, the program is built different technically and functional. The integration is also built totally different. One deal was high volume, try to increase as much as possible. The other is more B2B and was a certain functionality you can manually processing it.
Right. So part of it is how much of it can you automate through these smaller or more, these slightly, smaller, where, we're not, they're not tiny. Some of them are hundreds or thousands of dollars, but they're smaller transactions, not multi-million-dollar individual ones at volume. And how are you collecting against them, and how does that happen? And I think your other point about payment processing, as more and more we see customers using different methods of payment in the B2C arena in particular, but even in B2B, credit card processing with PSPs, you have other payments like Apple Pay, Zelle, Venmo, all of that has to be taken into consideration, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And think about requirements different, right? For when I typically talk about FI-AR customers, they are probably happy about 80–90% cash clearing rate. And then for FI-CA, 99%, that said, is not good enough. So,
right.
So how you're tuning up the systems and how the payment processing, and it definitely required the skills to get it up there, but definitely is with that power behind it, you definitely can achieve that.
Sure. Finally, let's touch on one of my favorite subjects, of course, when we talk about it. Like FI-CA, of course, is required in the public cloud to mesh with, if you will, CBRR, which is the super powerful public cloud version of RevRec out there, and you need FI-CA to do that, right?
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, but not just there. In the case of FI-CA, working with RAR, again, they're both set up to work automatically with revenue recognition. And of course, when you have these volumes and the velocity and all of that, it's absolutely crucial that you have that integration and that capability to mesh them together from a data standards perspective, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's as you said, the RAR is integrated on the private cloud and public cloud with SAP FI-CA seamlessly. And the interesting is when we technical develop, they have the same kind of data concept, how they split, how they managing the batch job processing. So we that way it's really it's even not marriage. It's just merged together. It's just when there's a subscription, there's monthly, daily revenue recognition and how it's split, how it's integrated. And it's a high requirement, right? You know that really very well that in the subscription consumption business model, the revenue recognition requirement is totally different from the traditional make to orders. And it's also have high volume. One payment could be split 100 ways of revenue recognitions. And with the revenue RAR's help on the private and on the public side, and this will help the high volume and seamlessly recognized, and then with the subscription or the usage-based new compliance.
Yeah, and I love that, that it's all, that an integrated solution that comes together, and you can, apply the tools that you need at the right time in the right place, right? It's not just, you have to buy an entire package. You really can think thoughtfully about, as you mentioned, the power of each of these BRIM tools, in particular FI-CA, to help you drive the right decisions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spot on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, with that, thank you, Heidi, very much. I appreciate it. That was a great conversation. You know, I think for me, as I thought about doing this webinar, and we've talked about doing it for a little while now, the so what to me, for me personally, is, FI-CA is an amazing tool as we begin to see more and more of our customers considering the subscription economy and looking at different models and different ways to go to market, whether it's using true subscriptions or it's a subscription that includes tiered pricing models, multiple pricing models in a single subscription where you might have a fixed fee, a tiered price, and then an overage at a consumption. And certainly as we see more and more volume, FI-CA has become clearly a key component to help customers do that. And it's available, Heidi, both in a private cloud and a private cloud version, but you also have a public cloud, FI-CA cloud, right?
Yeah, we further build the localization for public edition. And there's this over, I think right now it's like over 20 countries already, large countries already localized for public edition. And is also further try to develop cover more coverage of different countries. Definitely public edition is much easier to implement, less customization there.
Right.
However, that's also a very great options there if customers consider go SaaS fully, go completely public edition of S/4HANA.
Yeah, no. So from your perspective, what one or two things do you want the folks here to walk away with regarding FI-CA?
As I mentioned, the implementation, right? I want to debunk those myths. People think FI-CA is so complicated and take much longer to implement. However, if you don't know the model, yes, it will take longer. Finding an experienced consultant is for FI-CA because there's lots of pre-built content and a lot of automation, functionality you can leverage. It's really not take that long. And use example like this needs 7 months. They implement for 5 countries and now run that system over 200 million subscribers. And if you don't have even that volume, there's also consideration of others using FI short version of FI-CA or even integrated just FI-AR, existing FI-AR with CI, as I said, the 3 different options. And that's the first thing. And the second thing I really want to, if you are consulting, you will consider, think about FI-CA versus FI-AR. They are different purpose. That's why SAP have these 2 models, and they are coexisting. But doesn't mean that you should use both or you should use only one or the other. And based on the customer use case and demands and their business process, it's really essential step to make the right decision, FI-CA or FI-AR or both together. Because once you start implement, it's hard to reverse it. There's you can migrating one to the other, but it's just like brand new implementation. Think about the time and the cost there. So most customer was stuck with one decision versus the other. I have a customer years ago starting with FI-AR because they thought they didn't have that volume at the time. And once the volume pick up or the business model process get complex and get changes, they want to go from FI-AR, FI-CA, and they realize they double their cost and they need to migrate the existing all the data to a brand new one, and that's reinvestment. And really hard decision. I really highly recommend make a thoroughly decision, spend time, analyze it, and choose the right decisions, and not only think about now and think about the future, just think about sustainable, because you don't know the economy, which directions it goes, and you need to make sure your system is sustainable for the future growth.
Right, and it's a similar decision as you and I talk about, you know, the whole holistic view of your subscription business, including, you know, this is one of the decisions around, you know, what does your business model want to look like and how do you want it to look in the future? The same with revenue accounting, treasury, and the other aspects of it. So absolutely, you want to find, you know, a partner, you know, like Bramasol, who really understands the holistic view and is not just a single threaded, because it's a decision you're making, I think, not just based on one area, but it's really a decision that affects many different areas, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's highly recommend. I know you guys experienced in just one life with a public cloud customer recently, and this, if you choose a right partner, is really very important. I have a customer have a really over 500 million subscribers, and praise us for the system good performance, and there's customer nearly 100,000 subscribers still complain our system performance. So our functionality is, it's not the software, it's really who you work with, who you team up, have the right handyman to fix your problem.
That's right, absolutely. Well, we like to think we're the right handyman for that job. With that, Heidi, I will thank you as always. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time, both today as well as leading up to this. Thank you all for joining. You all hung in there for all 53 minutes of the webinar, so thank you very much for that. As always, you know, you can reach out to me, Bramasol, reach out to Heidi, check out the additional work that we've done on BRIM. And we look forward to future webcasts. Shameless plug for SAP Sapphire for those of you who are going to be there. Heidi will be there, I assume, as well as others who you can come talk to about FI-CA or any of the other topics around BRIM, revenue recognition, or others. So again, thank you, everybody. And as my dear friend says, make it a great day.
Thank you.